Episode 21 of the TM GolfCast. And in this episode, we talk to a PGA professional by the name of Bryan DeMarco. He is on the True Temper Advisory Council, and we also talk to him about how he does a lot of custom work as well. So without further ado, let's talk to Mr. Bryan DeMarco. Alrighty, so I'm with Mr. Custom Works himself, Mr. Bryan DeMarco. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So one thing that it was funny this year, I work at Nemacolin Woodlands Resort, and I was in the pro shop this year, and we got a PGA magazine, and I open it up, and the first page I see is a picture of True Temper shafts, and you next to this golf bag. I'm like, man, that guy looks. I know that guy. I know that guy. That was really cool.
Yep, you're going to start seeing. Yeah, you see a lot of those. They True Temper they reached out to 4 PGA pros about 3 years ago. The head of True Temper, their golf division, is a guy by the name of Bill Lang.
Okay.
And so he reached out to me about 3 years ago, and he said, "Hey, Bri, we're thinking about putting together a group of fitters / custom component guys / PGA professionals who can kind of help elevate the education that True Temper does for their shaft stuff." So they called it the Shaft Council, and he said to me, he's like, "Look, we're trying to get one guy from each region of the United States, East Coast, Midwest, Mountains, West Coast." So he said, he's like, "You think anybody on the East Coast that might want to do it, might be interested?" I said, "Let me think about that." And there was kind of a pause. And he said, "Bryan, I actually was hoping you would, volunteer." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in." So it's been fun. They came out, they did some promotional
Awesome.
pictures and stuff like that. So see my picture
that's
popping
awesome.
up.
Now, what's some of the new shafts now? We have the new Project X has the hazardous smoke.
Yep.
Have you tested it? What do you think of that shaft so far?
It's a great shaft for a lot of people because so basically the Project X had the handcrafted shafts, and they got so big, so fast.
Yeah.
There's only so much volume that they can do out of that small facility. The smoke was kind of like it wasn't as, I wouldn't say it's not as robust as the hazardous black.
Okay.
Basically, which is a great shaft in itself, but the smoke fits a lot more people.
Okay.
And it's something that they could put into their OEM companies.
Yeah.
And be very popular, a good shaft that could fit a lot of people with some good properties that the black possesses, but not as robust as that where it doesn't fit as many people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now I know they have the. What do you think about the even flow shafts?
They're great. Good. It's a good shaft for, not necessarily good for somebody that loads it very aggressively, but for somebody with a slightly smoother tempo, their shafts are awesome.
That's awesome. I know this summer I worked for Callaway Golf as a demo day rep, and they had the even flows and the Project X hazardous, and I'll tell you what, I fitted a lot of people into the even flows.
Yeah, even flow blue and red are great shafts for a multitude of golfers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually got the opportunity to put a hazardous handcrafted yellow shaft. Like the whole shaft is yellow.
Yep, that's what I put.
I love that shaft.
Yeah, they stopped making the yellow.
Yeah.
They still make it, but it's not yellow.
It's not that
black
bright.
with yellow. Yeah. That's a tour preferred look.
Yeah.
The guys on tour don't like the brightness, so they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I myself have the yellow as well.
It's really fun to play, and I'm a low launch guy, and I know I probably shouldn't be playing that shaft, but I love the way it looks, and I love the fact that it says handcrafted, so my ego's happy.
Well, it's a good shaft because it's counterbalanced.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's some weight in the shaft. There's some meat of the shaft is up in the grip section, and so that actually helps get it. Technically, it's a low launch, but it tends to help get it up in the air a little bit.
It's a good shaft. Now, what do you think of Project X LZ shafts? 120s. What is your thought on those?
I think they're awesome.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they are. And you can sit here and say, there's a lot of shafts that are awesome.
Yeah.
Technically, what I tell a lot of my people that I fit, there are a lot of great shafts out there, but the perfect shaft is the one that fits the player the best.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of shafts we can sit here and say, oh yeah, this is great, this is great, this is great. But yeah, in essence, you want to go try stuff out and see what fits you best.
Absolutely.
The LZ is an exceptional shaft for a lot of people because of that loading zone technology tends to get the irons up and really get a little bit more extra energy transferred to the ball.
Awesome. What kind of irons or shafts do you play in your irons?
I actually had the LZs for a while.
Oh, nice.
When they came out. Being that I'm on the shaft council, I tend to get a lot of the True Temper products ahead of time.
How's it going?
And they'll want me to try stuff out. For the longest time, I had a set of what they call Project Monacos in my clubs. I had them for about 7 years. Would not change them for anything.
Nice.
Finally got rid of those, and I still have them. I'll never get rid of them. But went to the LZs. They're a great shaft. I actually just recently switched over and tried the Elevates, which is a new shaft. I've got the Tour version, which is excellent for me, for what I wanted to do. Definitely, I've got AP3s in my irons, so they tend to, by their design, they've got, they definitely have less loft on them. So the Elevate, for me, gets it up and spins it a little bit more, which is nice.
Now that Elevate shaft, doesn't it have a dampener in the center of it?
It has a design that will dampen it.
Oh, okay.
Similar to the feeling that the Sensacore used to provide.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They call it the VSS, I believe.
Yeah.
They've got a couple versions of it now. They do have a Tour version, a little bit of a, more mid to heavier weight. Feels great. Great feedback. Definitely spins the ball more, gets it up, elevates it in the air.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice.
So now, switching gears a little bit from shafts, you're also a big car guy.
Yeah, it's fun. I grew up around, my father was before I was around, he was a big drag car guy. So, I was always, grew up kind of watching, he was always watching races and stuff. And at my last job as an assistant, I was helping a buddy work on a race car. And then when I took over as head pro at my current job, it afforded me the ability to kind of work with him on a more regular basis at every race on Saturdays. So that's been fun. And that venture is just closed. We just sold the car, so now it's on to other things. We'll see if we get another one next year.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I know that's one thing I'd love to do is just own a dirt car team, either like a sprint car team or a modified, something of that nature. It's so much fun going to those races, watching the dirt fly. I don't know.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
The redneck in me starts to come out when I'm at a race. Oh man. You also said you're going to the Daytona 500.
We are going to the 500. Actually, the 500 is going to be a bachelor party. We're looking forward to that.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I've been to it a bunch of times. This is the first time that we're going to camp in the infield. We're getting an RV and going down. So,
nice.
Should be an interesting adventure. Yeah.
Now, what's your picks? Who do you think is going to come out on top this race?
I'll be completely honest with you. I mean, I don't. I was a big fan of the older drivers.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of the new crop.
There's a lot of new guys out there.
There
a
are.
lot of young kids.
I like Logano. Interesting enough, my father's neighbor down here in Florida, he actually used to live in Connecticut, and a guy that worked for him was Logano's father.
Really? Wow.
So he was telling me this story way back of, this guy that works for me, his son was signed by Joe Gibbs Racing to, when he was 15 years old to an exploratory contract, blah, blah, blah. And, it was fun watching him come up and when he first started racing NASCAR. So, he's one of the only guys that I still recognize a lot. So I'll root for him.
Now, he's the previous champion of last year.
Yep.
That was cool to see him win that. It was good for him. I was a big Truex fan, though. I really wanted Martin Truex to win.
I must say I am a Truex fan. Being, I'm not from Jersey, but I've been in Jersey for a while. And actually, the guy that I used to race the car with, he used to race go-karts against Martin.
Really?
Truex, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah, so there'll be a big contingent rooting for Truex at the 500. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a little bit back to the golf side.
Yeah.
So, one of the questions I love asking is, what is the funniest thing you've ever seen on the golf course, or working at a facility, or the craziest thing?
Whew. I actually don't know if I can comment on that. I have, during my many years at Deal, I have witnessed a lot of craziness, a lot of fun times. I've had a lot of good times with people. I've seen a lot of crazy things, some of which I don't, but there's many things. There's nothing really one thing that jumps out in particular. We've seen some pretty scary times of people getting hit with golf balls, things like that.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, so it's, runs the whole gamut. Funny,
Yeah.
crazy, scary. Yeah.
I was talking to a guy earlier this morning. He said, one thing he couldn't pick out, but he said, being working in a golf facility is kind of like being an adult babysitter
Hmm.
sometimes, and it's like that. That's a really good point. Sometimes when the golf carts and alcohol doesn't sometimes always mix.
You know what? I've worked in private golf all my life. I've never known anything but private club golf, and I've met a lot of great people, a lot of wonderful people. Um, my old boss, Jason, when we were at my former club, he used to have a saying, and it does ring true for a lot of guys. It's good advice for a lot of people in the industry. You won't really know a person until you tell them no.
Really?
And it's true with members. In this industry, we're very much centered on yes. We're
Yeah.
yes people. We like to say yes to everybody. But there's inevitably going to be that time where you got to put your foot down and say, no, this can't be done. No, I can't do this. And that's when you find out how a person really, truly is.
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Because I work in the resort style,
Mhm.
and everything we're taught is say yes. If there's a way, just do it.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
never say the word no. And so I find that real interesting that if you say the word no, you actually build a little bit better relationship with that person. I
Mhm.
think that's a little interesting. Now, being as a PGA professional yourself, you also do custom work as well on wedges and irons and all that kind of stuff. Go into a little bit of detail about that and how you started custom works.
So basically, I worked at the Old Country Club in New Jersey for 10 years. I started there in 2004. When I first started there, we had a guy that we took all of our club work to. Um, Eventually, that relationship went away, and my boss at the time said to me, "Hey, what do you need to get going?" I said, "Give me X amount of dollars. We'll set up a shop here, start doing some stuff." We made his money back probably within a month
Nice.
of doing simple club repair stuff like that. And I've always been an equipment like kind of tech junkie,
Yeah.
interested in clubs and whatnot. And this kind of afforded me the way to jump into that a little bit more. We started doing some more extensive fitting. I started opening up accounts with True Temper, Fujikura, UST.
Mhm.
Got to know a lot of the guys there. Bill Lang at True Temper is probably the biggest example. That led to me eventually being on the Shaft Council, just because of how much I was doing with them, um, and also being a performance fitting setter for them. And the doors just kept opening, things kept building. I started getting a following in New Jersey. Like, hey, if you're looking for high-end shafts, UST, True Temper, Project X, Fujikura, go see Brian at Deal. And then I just continued it when I went to Pine Barrens, where I am now as the head pro. We've got a 17-acre range. We've got flight scope, latest launch monitor equipment. Kind of just kept building on it. Now we do full scale fittings, all kinds of custom work, stamping wedges, things like that.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's where my niche is. I love painting and stamping and all that fun stuff.
It's fun. It's been an adventure. I had one of my good friends is a pro at a very prestigious club up north, and he called me up last year and he said, "Hey, look, I want to do a giveaway for my member guest. We want to do wedges." And I
Nice.
said, "Okay." And so, long story short, I ended up stamping 75 wedges in one night.
Wow,
So we had one of his
Jeez.
assistants bring the wedges down. She drove them down that night, and I had a buddy come over. He was helping me stamp, and we just had a party down in the, down stamping wedges. We banged them all out, got them all done,
Now
turned them
I
around.
know with stamping though it's hard because sometimes you're gonna mess up. You're
Yep.
gonna double stamp something. How many wedges did you go through that night?
75 wedges came in, 75 went out. No
Wow,
mistakes.
that's
Knock wood.
amazing.
Yep,
Wow,
it was pretty good.
that's awesome. Now now I know like I follow a guy at Callaway Golf, Anthony Toronto,
Uh-huh.
big stamper. Do you do much with sandblasting as well? I know he does a little bit with that.
I didn't get into a lot of the finishings and stuff. Just with as much as basically, I do have a primary job being a head pro,
Yeah.
and that does, while being at Pine Barrens, it's a great place. I don't have a lot of headaches. We have a pretty smooth operation. We do a great job. I've got great guys working for me, but I never really ventured into a lot of the coatings and things like that, just because there's other people that are doing it. I'd rather just let them do it. They've got the
Yeah.
expertise. If one day I decide to mess around with it, I might start messing around with powder coating,
Okay, yeah.
some stuff like that, but nothing too crazy.
That's awesome. Well, Brian, I appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely.
I really do. Do you want to give a tag out to your Instagram or any social networks that you're on?
Yeah, sure. If you guys want to check me out, you can check out Custom Works Golf on Instagram, and same thing on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian, for being on the show. I really
All right.
appreciate it. And
Pleasure.
have a great rest of your show.
You too, buddy.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you guys for listening to episode 21 of the TM GolfCast. Next week, we have a gentleman by the name of PGA Jay on the show. We'll be talking to him. And then after that, we got some pretty exciting stuff on the way for you guys. So thank you guys for listening to episode 21, and I'll see you guys next week.